5, 4, 3. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is 𝕮𝖛𝖎 from the GoLoco Podcast, and today I have a returning guest and a new guest from the channel Drunk on Games. We have Jonathan and May. Would you like to introduce yourselves today to the audience?
Hi, I'm May, good friends of 𝕮𝖛𝖎 from a fraternity.
I'm Jonathan. He comes over here to play board games and get drunk and whatever.
Not now, though.
Get drunk on games. Yeah, you're right. Not now.
Pre-COVID.
Pre-COVID.
Back
That's
when
right.
we could actually do things.
Yeah, we can. I'll probably come back in like
2023.
FBI agent. What?
When are we allowed? When are we getting
December. Oh, after election. Okay, got it. No. Conspiracy. No, we're not doing conspiracies. I need a special guest for conspiracy theories. I don't know if I'll ever find one, but I need someone who's really deep into that. I need to find my not Alex Jones. Who's the other? I need Jesse Ventura. Jesse Ventura, if you're watching this for some odd reason, come on the show. I don't know how I could talk to you because I'm scared of you half the time, but it's all good.
That would be interesting. I would watch the heck out of that one.
Oh yeah. If Jesse Ventura and Alex Jones ever got into a room, I'm like, just close the door, man. I think the Illuminati are coming for them. All right. Anyway, so how have you guys been since I haven't seen you guys in months? Really, have you guys been holding up with the pandemic going outside?
Well, with Drunk on Games, we're still filming. We've reduced down to just legacy games because it reduces the risk. It's mostly people who live within this house and one or two outside people who are the regulars on the channel. And we come over and do just full day filming, and then I edit them slowly in the background. So, it reduces the risk. It takes an entire, 10 episodes and puts it into 2 weeks of filming, or just 2 individual days of filming. Which, by the way, speaking of intros, I think that's one of the funnier things. You're like, oh, you've practiced on your intros, because we've gotten so used to our common intro right now. We just started filming for the next game. That's going to be 𝕮𝖛𝖎, 𝕮𝖛𝖎. And so one of the old members has come back because he first introduced us to 𝕮𝖛𝖎. And so I gave him the spot of hosting for it. But he's slightly changed the intro.
Oh no!
And it throws all of us off. Almost every intro episode, we're sitting there with our mugs ready for it, and then he's like, "So welcome to Drunk on Games. This week and we're just all sitting there like, oh yeah, he changed it.
It's different, man. I don't know.
I'm running the show. It's gonna be my way.
Oh, I know. We've had to film multiple takes because we're like, no, do it however you want to do it. Go ahead. Just let's do another take because we all fucked up because we expected this and it didn't happen. And
so when they switch hosts on one of those late night shows, and everyone's like, this is not how Jimmy Fallon did his intro. I'm confused. Where are we putting the camera?
Because he uses the same phrasing of welcome to Drunk on Games, and for us it's welcome to Drunk on Games where we cheers, drink, play, and he was like, welcome to Drunk on Games. This week we're gonna. And we're like, oh God, it had the same start, but you kept going. What are you doing?
Right. Yeah, we gotta cheers, drink, and play. Yeah.
Which I have no idea when this episode's gonna come out, but as of today, our blooper reel for Machikoro Legacy went up. I don't care if you've watched the rest, go watch that. It's hilarious.
I saw it literally 5 minutes before we started this recording, so go check that out.
Please do.
Their channel Drunken Games is going to be in the description below, by the way, so make sure to do that. Also, if you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe to both of our channels, like all of our videos, comment, and we got to do inside joke. Comment, cheers, drink, play in the comments right now, so I know you've gone this far in the video.
Please do. I want to see how many of you know my struggles.
I've have a total of 5 comments among almost 20 videos now. I'm sure I'll get at least one.
Hey,
probably you guys.
Yeah. You've been doing it for 3 years and still improving it a bit.
Yeah.
I put more effort into our job is filming it and having fun and less effort into marketing. And that's why we haven't grown our base that much. But That's okay.
So
1 second.
So one step at a time. Try to.
Ooh. We can hear you guys.
We can hear you guys clearly.
Yeah. Ooh.
Anyways,
it's all good.
There you go.
Cool. For me, I'm just like updating you guys on my situation. I've just been home, just doing podcasts. And school for me just started. So if you're listening to the last podcast, you know I was going to start school back up. Now I have officially done it, and oh my god, I have never taken so many notes in a college class as much as these 3 classes in my entire. Their solution to I can't really teach as much in person is here. I don't want to do a lecture, so just take notes on these, and I'll have a quiz every week for one of my classes, and the other one's like, okay, we need to take we have class slides, and textbook slides, and we need you to take notes on both. And the other one just taking lecture slide notes. So I was like, oh, that's fantastic. And it's like, I don't think I've written this much notes since like maybe an AP class in high school. It's a lot. It's just going on and on and on. And I don't know what's important because all of it is mostly new information. So I don't know what's important to the professor to like know. At least he gave us textbook slides, because I looked at the textbook, it was even more wordy. I was like, why? Yeah. I don't know why. I don't know. So I don't know if that's obviously the situation for everyone who's doing online classes due to COVID, but that's just my situation right now. Yeah, it's going okay.
So you don't have to buy the textbook. It's just already like.
No, none of our professors required the textbook, at least not this time around. Though we do have textbooks. Though I think the only time we haven't needed to take notes in any of the textbooks yet either, even though they put in the syllabus. So I think at the moment we're fine.
Good, especially with like this hard time of buying certain things. It'll be nice to have if teachers can find ways to help students out to not buy so much textbooks, because I remember
so many textbooks.
$100.
Textbooks are always
here's the required textbook. Here's 5 recommended books that I'm not going to give you notes for, but have some material that you may want to know. And then also here's a software for another $100.
Yeah.
Depending on your class, stuff could be ridiculous.
Yeah.
I always appreciated the teachers that were just like, I get it. I have a couple copies in the library you can rent anytime.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or, stuff like that. Online classes, if they don't give them as PDFs. Yeah, and with my university, I feel like we're doing an okay job. I don't think the dorming. I know some people there have some of the dorms open, but not full. As I think even the apartments are only 1 or 2 people max. So it's like that one for them. Those people, I think those prices are higher. But I feel like you have more room now. But I think there's still I think they're stricter about who can come in and who can come out, obviously. And then, I don't think we've had any COVID cases on our campus, unlike some schools, which I don't know. Those things spread like wildfire in some of those schools. On the news is it was within 2 weeks, there's one school that already had 200 cases. I was like, no, how about no? It's like no.
Yeah.
And then I know there's some schools who are doing a mandatory 2-week quarantine, just so before school starts, they can tell, okay, everyone who's going to be living on campus doesn't have COVID. But then, I think it's NYU, or New York State, whatever it's called, where they're supposed to give, obviously, food that's pre-prepared to these students, right? And some of these students are like, oh, I'm allergic to chocolate or fish, or I'm vegan, or I can't eat pork or whatever. And it's either the school is not listening at all, or they didn't even bring food. And I'm like, oh man, it's Ashley shared it with me. It was pretty bad. I don't know. I feel like a lot of schools really underprepared for it, because I feel like a lot of them thought that this thing would be mostly over by now, but I think they should have been more prepared for that. I don't know.
Not only that, but I feel like a lot of school systems are old school, and still wanting to keep the old school system because it worked, but it's about that time where we have to adapt to the new changes. Right now, adapting to the pandemic and eventually adapting to new technologies.
Right. I feel like a lot of people are realizing We don't have to have so many meetings in person. We can have, even if we're all in the same building, we can just have it all over Zoom or Skype or Google Classroom or whatever they use. Like, I feel like a lot of places for work are starting to realize that. Um, Also adapting new things, especially for schools. I know it was a verdict that came out from, I think, an Alameda County judge, in which UCs can no longer, because I think the UC system had announced that they're not requiring SAT or ACT scores. You can still submit them, but they're not requiring it. However, I think this past week a judge said no one should be able to even submit them, because there's going to be some people who are like disabled or who might not be, who are scared to go out and try to take the test during the pandemic, that they won't even be able to send the score. So even though it won't be like part of the minimum requirements, because you could still submit it, it could be, I think they say it could be viewed as an extracurricular to like see which person would be better in that case. So now I think they're not going to be doing that at all, which I've heard mixed things about. I mean, from as a student perspective, I know I definitely, like, I would have, if I didn't have to take the SAT or ACT, man, I didn't want that. But I understand it's like it's the thing where you supposed to have the standardized tests across every single education so you can weigh people easier. But then there's also the problem that more affluent areas can have kids able to prepare for those type of tests because easier. So it was a complicated thing. Though I think because of that, the UC system also announced that they're planning relatively soon. I think 2023, they're not even going to be accepting SAT or ACT at all, and they're going to have their own test. I don't know if that's going to be like how Japan does their college entrance exams or not, but that sounds interesting. And I feel like, I don't know, it's weird seeing like there's something that my whole educational life pre-college was like, oh, SAT, ACT, I got to prepare for this. Within 20 years might be completely gone, because I feel like a lot of people are going to follow what the UC system is doing, especially if it succeeds, aka make money off it. So it's weird seeing there's a lot of things changing right now. This whole the world's a crazy place right now. So
it's one of the few things I appreciate about COVID is it's forcing our hand into finally making change. That a lot of things have needed change, and a lot of things have needed to adapt to a world like this. Anyways, not necessarily like with a pandemic, but a world where all this technology is, apparent, where you can do things online, where there's just so much more access if I don't have to physically go places. And don't get me wrong, I am a huge proponent of, I don't learn well on online classes. I'm horrible at online classes. I failed almost every online class, and I learned so much better in class. Yeah, so you can't have all of one or all of the other, but it's been so heavily just stick to the old system that it's nice to see that things are getting forced into change.
Now, whether or not those changes stick after this whole pandemic remains to be seen. So we'll see.
But they'll become better options, or at least open it up. That was one of the things I actually just had a thought on, was because I've taken a few online classes, and I realize now there's dramatic differences between like those online classes and Zoom teaching. Because Zoom teaching is like, what if classroom but online? Whereas online classes were tune in to these pre-recorded things here and there, read that, and then here's a group chat of your people, work on this project together and submit it. And they were more like project oriented, whereas Zoom teaching is more like tune in and pay the heck attention or you're not going to learn anything.
Oh, it's like normal class.
It'll be very interesting.
The professor is struggling though, but it's still,
everyone's gonna have to adapt, but I think that's going to be interesting. The more they adapt, the more we're going to find what works well, or what works well for the different types of teachers or the different types of students. And if you can find those different things, I think everything can improve overall from that. Like I said, it's forcing the hand of change, and change is always going to come and look ugly and weird at the first, but the more you do it, the better you can become with it.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited to kind of see where it ends up.
And I feel like this time it's a great time for, trials and error. Try something new. If it doesn't work, then try something else. Because my brother, who is taking college classes, he is autistic, and it's kind of hard to teach or have that to be able to teach someone who is disabled. But I was able to see how his teachers are doing it, and whatever they're doing, it's doing well. Like he at first he was having trouble how to use Zoom, like we all are. But after being able to get used to the program and adapt to the new changes. He's been picking up classes, picking up like the knowledge a lot better now too. Though it still would be better to be in person, but it's what we can do for now.
Right. Yeah, I'm interested because obviously you guys are post college and or older, and then I'm obviously still in college. But I feel like it's really going to be interesting to see high school and below how teaching changes, because like I feel like maybe the younger teachers who are just coming out or maybe only 10 years in might have an easier time just because they'd be around what, millennial to maybe early Gen Z age, or I guess late. I don't know how that would work, but like that area of age are like, oh, we know technology pretty well, we can get used to it. But I feel like all the older teachers are obviously probably, I don't know if I want to say they're struggling, because I know probably a lot, I'll say probably a lot of them were able to adapt, but I feel like a lot of them are also like realizing like, oh, I don't know if I can do this anymore. That's going to be really not interesting, but really, I don't know if there's any other word, but it's going to be, how does education systems change? Do we all just come back? Do some teachers realize, hey, I like my students, but I kind of liked having like a break from not having to be in a room, especially like with the younger ones, where like I've been seeing a lot of stories where like the teachers having more like fun with the kids over the thing, because like the kids are like coming in early to the Zoom meeting and start, like if the class starts at 8, they're coming at like 7:30 and they're all chatting about the weekend. And even though I know that happens in the space, I feel like because it's coming in online, it's not all of a sudden this massive kids come in and then all of a sudden everyone's like getting riled up. But I feel like they're able to, I wouldn't say like make sure all the students are paying attention, but more like it's less chaotic feelings for the teachers themselves to like teach, because they can teach and then they can like have some of the students who will be muted or whatever, or they'll be able to, I think especially in Zoom, you can raise your hand so you know exactly who's doing a question. But I don't know, it's just going to be interesting to see how education changes from here on out, just because I feel like education was at this weird stalemate where it was like technology was starting to skyrocket, but I feel like a lot of teachers were stuck in their ways, but now they're forced to adapt, like Jonathan said, with the other with companies and whatnot. So it's going to be interesting to see how education changes within the next year or two following this pandemic.
I like the meme that that was going around Instagram. It was like a girl saying something like, guys, like, please be kind to your teacher. My dad, who is 53, has been asking me to like help him practice to use Zoom so that he won't make any mistake when it comes to teaching his kids. So it shows that, yeah, they're like the older generation of teachers are struggling with the new technology, but they're willing to put the effort so that they can continue with the connection with their students. I love that.
Oh, I saw another funny one. It was a professor. It was like, I think it's like, the professor was like, I think he sent out a video over email saying like, oh, because they're starting classes next week, so I assume it's a quarter system school. But it was a chem professor, and he was like, he's all in the suit. He walks down the stairs. He's like, "Hello, class. Welcome to Chem 190." It was like a high number, so I assume high level undergrad course, right? And he's like, he was talking and say, "You better read the syllabus, right, Snoop?" And do you guys know what Cameo is or no? So Cameo is basically you get to pay people on there to tell you things, and a lot of times they're celebrities. So there's like, I think Justin Bieber's on there, Snoop Dogg.
What?
I don't know. So he literally got Snoop Dogg to say, "Yeah, kids, I read that syllabus. It's dope." And it was like,
wow.
Could you imagine? You're like, get to send this video, and you're just like, "Did Snoop Dogg just tell me to read the syllabus?" And then and then the professor put the syllabus link on the screen, so it was going viral because everyone's like, "Man, I've been out of college for 20 years and I still want to read the syllabus." I've never been so interested to read a syllabus before. And apparently the professor, he's like this middle-aged Asian guy, but apparently he's like really chill because all the people are like, "Oh yeah, I've had him before. He's like the best professor. He's hella good. You guys are in good hands." It's like, oh man, I like it when professors and teachers, especially professors who actually care about their job, because I know like you were like, what do you mean they don't? Like some of them are just there to teach just because they need the money or they have to do it for their financing. But the professors and teachers who actually teach for the sake of teaching I always find are the best. The ones who are passionate, and people like they lose, like say like, oh, they lose their passion. I mean, not necessarily. I know some I mean, obviously people do lose it, but there's also people who just are able to continually push through. And I feel like this pandemic is really showing which teachers are really passionate and which teachers are like, I just threw a lecture online, just watch it. I'll be sleeping. I'll grade your final. It's like, yeah. So I think that's good. Yeah. Teaching. This whole I know this is exactly what this podcast is about. Anyway, so May, I'm gonna switch the conversation for you regarding your job, if that's okay with you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So May works for this company called USANA. I did their reset challenge a few months ago now, and I actually did lose weight, and I've actually kept the weight down through this pandemic. So cheers for me. Now down to flat 200. That's since at USANA before the thing. By the way, this is not sponsored. This is just me saying the products do work. So I'm not sponsoring this thing, even though it's her. She works at the company. But I did before I did the reset challenge. I was at 220, and now I'm down to 200 now. So I went down to around 214, 212, and then I was able to keep it down throughout this pandemic. So I definitely felt like I was stuck. So it was able to let me come down in that weight, so I can get to a better point where I could continue losing that weight that I know I did gain over the past like 2 years. So thank you for that. But if you want to tell the audience more about USANA, you can go ahead. I guess. I don't know.
Oh man, should I start with a cute story?
Sure. What's
this
the
is
cute story?
How I met you.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Hey, we're going spicy.
I love sharing this story because
all right, I'm ready.
True.
I haven't heard. I feel like I've heard this story like vaguely, but I want to hear it again.
So it was, I believe, the year of 2012. I was 16 at that time, so still like a high schooler.
You make me sound like a pedophile.
No. To give everyone a bigger idea, we're 7 years apart, and we're at legal age of dating.
Yes, I'm not a pedophile.
But this is back in 2012. I had a boyfriend at that time, and he had a girlfriend at that time. Would you like to say your age when you were 2012?
No, it's fine.
Okay. My boyfriend at that time was introduced to the company USANA, and one day he asked me like, "Oh, there's an event going on. Would you like to come with me to check it out?" I was like, "Oh yeah, sure, no problem." Something came up and he couldn't go, so I had to go with another friend, which is totally fine. I mean, as a guest, I could get things for free, and like because they had raffle prizes, and why not? Why not meet new people? So me and my friend got to the place like about 30 minutes early, and he introduced me to some of his friends, and I was able to, it's like, "Hi, how are you?" Just to see who is in the room and what kind of person they are, and actually add them on Facebook, which are still my friends till this day. And one of those people, it was Jonathan. We just chatted, like casual conversation, and we talked about tennis, and was like, "Oh, you play tennis? I play tennis right now." And so we clicked, and it was time to start the event. So we just ended up by saying like, "Let's add each other on Facebook," and we did.
The goal was supposed to be to eventually play tennis, which we never did.
To this day, I have not played tennis.
We have played to this day.
5 years later.
After we started dating.
All right.
So we met at USANA, but not saying that USANA is a dating site. It's not. It's definitely not. It's a cute
disclaimer.
Story. It's a cute
disclaimer. USANA is not a dating company. You cannot find your true love here. But if you do, no.
Now, the story ends with about 5 or 6 years later, she changed her profile picture. I commented on it. She commented. I commented. She commented. And I went, "Screw it," and opened the chat window. And we just never stopped talking.
Yeah. But going back to the real question, the main question.
Yes. What is this company that's not a dating app?
I'm sorry. It's a cute story that I love to tell. Anyways, it is a nutrition science company that is founded by scientists who actually spend a lot of his time focusing on the human cells, like what can he do to keep the cells healthy and live longer? Because sometimes our cells deteriorate by themselves, but what can we do to keep it longer and healthier so that we can continue to do the things that we want to do, like run a marathon or swim from one island to another, kind of Olympic style kind of thing. And he was able to create a company as like a passion project to be able to like what's a better word? To be able to like create supplements to help people to prevent from having degenerative disease. Degenerative meaning like there are diseases that could have been prevented based on your lifestyle, the things that you eat. Like a lot of things can be prevented if you change your life. And the reason, and I have been taking. So before USANA, I was actually working at a photography job. And let's just say that I wasn't really happy at that job. Like, sure, it was within my field, photography, but I was doing a lot of the sales associate side. And I was able to learn a lot of things, like be able to be on the phone comfortably and have that customer service with the person on the other side of the phone. But I felt like my health was deteriorating. And so my friend who has been in USANA for like 15 years reached out to me and was like, hey, like you should take care of your body. At that time, I was like rejecting my health. Like, let me just focus on earning money. Let me just focus on like working all these hours and just ignoring my health. I didn't have enough energy to come back home to spend time with Jonathan and like with playing board games and stuff, like spending good times with him. So that just woke me up and told myself like, hey, I need to fix my health. I really want to fix my health. I'm still young. Like, I don't want to
feel old.
I still want to have that kid in heart of me and just to have fun all the time and not neglect my health. So thanks to my friend, I was able to be more conscious of my health, making sure I'm eating the right things, making sure I take my supplements. Because, yeah, sure, we could eat certain foods that give us vitamins and minerals, but might not be enough. The food that we have today was not the same 10 years ago. Things have changed. So to put myself into a routine of taking supplements as well as watching what I eat has totally changed my life. It helped me mentally and helped me physically. And with that, it grew a passion in me of wanting to share that to my friends as well, friends and families. Because I noticed that, they are going through some sort of health that they want to improve on. And I have these resources that I'm like, hey, let me help you. Like, here are these resources. Let me help you, guide you. These are the things that have helped me. I want to help you as well. So I'm happy to say I've been full-time USANA for the past month now, and it's been amazing. It's been a blessing.
Nice. Yeah, I feel like a lot of people, especially coming out of like, or going to the workforce, coming out of college, are really trying to, especially because with things like student loans or whatever, try to get money right away. We often neglect like our bodies, our physical, mental, emotional health. And it's like, it's really not good. Like, I mean, yes, you can become successful. Maybe you can be successful earlier on, but what's the cost of it? Like, do you feel,
right,
even if it's in a field that you like, how much are you willing to sacrifice before you can start thinking about what makes you happy? Like, even if the job itself makes you happy, what's the point of it if you just come home and you're beat and you don't have no time to relax, and then you wake up and start again? And even if that's, I feel like finding that balance of doing what you love while not overstressing yourself is something that is a big conflict in society right now, because a lot of society is saying you have to make this amount of money to live this certain lifestyle at the bare minimum, and it doesn't matter if you like it or not, you have to do it. And I feel like even if you end up doing a job that you might necessarily was your dream job, I still feel like trying to find that balance between, okay, I need to be able to give myself a hobby or watch what I eat or go on a jog or go to the gym or just doing something that like, not like, what's it called? Just try the thing called work-life balance. And obviously there are some people who take that literally and like they'll try to balance their work and their life. There's all other people who will be like, well, if I love what I do, I'll never work a day in my life. And whichever route you end up going, I feel like you just need to find what makes you the most comfortable, where you're healthy in all aspects of life. Because if you feel like you're stressing yourself out too much in one area, it's going to negatively affect another, and then just going to be a cascading domino effect. And I don't think anyone wants that. So I feel like for the audience out there, if you're struggling with just your physical health, mental health, emotional health, and you're not happy with your job, you're not happy with something, try to I would say just step back for just a sec, just try to see what you can do, what part of you do you need to improve yourself. Because I think was something true noble is, it was like a quote, like being noble is not seeing how you're better than everyone else, but how you can be better than yourself from yesterday, which is like, I forgot where the quote was from, but I recently heard that on a YouTube video. I think that's pretty true. Like trying to improve yourself is probably the number one thing, because if you're not happy with yourself, you'll never be happy in any other part of life.
Yeah, exactly. Jonathan has an analogy that sticks to me to this day. You're happy to share the airplane analogy?
He's like, which airplane?
The airplane is crashing, and
he's like, I don't remember this analogy.
I have a lot of analogies. I need more apparently I need more specifics than that.
Okay. Anyways, it is you know what happened? So it's the instruction that like a pilot, or not pilot, the flight attendant will always say, if
you have to take care of yourself before you can help take care of anyone else.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah. And that's true, you know. Now I get the airplane, but the flight attendant analogy would have got me here. Yeah, because it's what they always say when you're on an airplane is, if the gas masks come down because the cabin depressurized, make sure you put on your own damn mask first, because if you help them, you're screwed.
Yeah.
Right.
Help you, then you can help them, and that's a very true thing. You know, it's always easier to help others when you have stability yourself.
Mm-hmm. And it's not being selfish. Like you should only. We're not talking about being narcissistic and only think about yourself and like only me. I don't care who gets hurt along the way. Not that, but it's more like because we're never gonna be our perfect versions of ourselves, because there's no such thing. But trying to figure out, all right, how can I improve on myself yesterday? How can I improve as a person, as a student, how can I improve my job? How can I improve my home life? How can I improve as a husband, a wife, father, son, daughter, anything? Just what aspect of me can I improve day to day to try to be the best version of myself, so I can be happy with who I am every day, while also making sure that everyone around me doesn't. Because I feel like people don't know that when you're having people are like, oh, no one knows when I'm feeling down, but I feel like to an extent that could be true, but I feel like people are social beings, so they can sense when stuff is off with people that they're close with. So if you're feeling off and you're not realizing it, I won't guarantee, but there's a good chance that people around you can, but obviously because it's not, even though they can try to help, it's not their job to tell you, hey, you need to do this, because obviously that's something you have to realize on your own. So I think, was it being like, I don't want to say mindful, but I think that's the word. It might be mindfulness. I don't know. But just like realizing, being in the moment, saying like, okay, am I happy where I am right now? Am I the best version of what I can be? Have I improved at all? Am I hurting the people around me? Am I hurting myself? It's just like trying to figure out where you at in life, so you can always try to be better to the next day, or trying to find help. Like, oh, maybe I need to go to a therapist or psychiatrist, or maybe I need to go check something out that I've been neglecting to my doctor. It's like, it's not bad to ask for help. I feel like a lot of people, that pride of being like, I don't need help from anyone but me, but it's not that. It's not, what I'm saying is you should always be trying to improve yourself, but not by yourself. Maybe, is that a good analogy? You need to have those roots to like hold you down. So just don't, I don't know. This analogy kind of, I don't think it messed up. I feel like I just...
We're on the right path. We're on the right path. Yeah. Definitely. Always believe like we're here on this planet, in this life, not alone. Like,
right.
Like we have all these different options when we go to college of what we want to focus on, and a lot of them are willing to help other people. Like a lot of people will spend years of these knowledge just so that they can teach other people. So like therapists and doctors, never be ashamed to see them. Like if you feel like you need additional help, seek help. You know yourself the best, and always find the things that can help you the most.
Right. All right, so maybe trying to switch on to a lighter topic. Jonathan, how is, since last time we talked about, link in the description if you want to know why Jonathan hates Monopoly. But how has the board game industry been during this, during what's happening in 2020? Has anything changed? And like, coming from you, since you've been in the industry, around the industry for so long, how do you feel like the board game industry is during this thing? If I don't know if that's a
no, that's a valid
thing.
The board game industry hasn't changed too much. The insider publishing track has changed a bit because there's no such thing as conventions anymore. And a lot of them have moved online and are doing those. I participated in one of them, but online board gaming is just not the same to me. And because at that point, it's no different than online video gaming. And that was not the initial purpose behind board games to me. Board games, I feel, are a little better than video games to me because I can sit around a table with others, laugh, chat, do whatever with it. But that's not you don't get that interaction online. You get some of it to a certain extent. But like I said, the purpose of the board game was to physically sit around with others. Mm-hmm. So while online conventions and our own game night even do fine online, they're not the same. And so for publishing companies, that's changed a decent amount because board game conventions were like one of the cornerstones of running your business. For most publishing companies that aren't big enough, you go there because that's where you'll find your crowd. That's where people will get to see you, get to see what games you have. It's your marketing, truthfully. Like there's only so much space online in the places that all the board gamers go. But each of these conventions are the places that all those board gamers do go to. So it was weird because I was working as a convention manager for a publishing company, Bard Games. And we had just finished our second Kickstarter, and we were about to go to a convention literally the week quarantine got labeled. The convention was the same week that quarantine started. And we made the option to back out before quarantine was announced. Or shelter in place or whatever you want to call it. But we made that option to back out ahead of time, but mostly because all of the distributors and people we wanted to see already backed out. And so now, that entire avenue, I basically just gave up on the concept of that being a job I have. And so, publishing companies essentially had to consolidate down to an online team, and that's it, which is kind of nice because a company like ours was already all online. Nobody lived around each other, really. The closest is me and the owner of it, which is like an hour away from me. But for the most part, we were all online. Everyone communicated and dealt with everything online. And actually, the way we dealt with it was we'd do our in-person meetings at conventions. So speaking of how companies can change to be more futuristic, we were quite on that, where our only in-person meetings were conventions, truthfully. But that died out. And so we've had to make that question, do we continue publishing games or not bother? It's kind of a good stepping point where we can leave online sales to sell the rest of our board games and just leave it alone and be done. Or we can, or we can continue pushing forward and trying to run more Kickstarters and do things. So in the very beginning, when Shelter in Place started, I was very worried because for a good couple weeks, like no Kickstarters were going and very few new board games were being published. And then it kind of went back to, business as usual. So new games are back to being made. They're probably not as many, which I don't think is a bad thing. We were getting too many new games. It was like you were just reinventing the same few things with too many people not, I would just say not being experienced and vetted enough and going their self-publishing route. Whereas if you get picked up by an actual publishing company, generally speaking, they're going to vet your game and thoroughly play test it until it's good, at least good. And sometimes we were getting games that were not that good from people who are like, I can do this myself, you know. So a lot of that has died out. But yeah, it still exists. I just literally before this podcast, I pre-ordered an expansion to a board game that I love because I just saw the news that it's coming out soon. And I'm like, oh, done. Give me it. I want that. So things are still moving and going, but it's definitely taken a big change. And then again, like in-person board gaming too. Our game nights were every Tuesday night. We had 20 to 30 people. Now, once a week, maybe I'll have 2 friends over, 2-3 friends. And that's it. And we play a good handful of board games. And then that scratches my board game itch and we're done.
Right.
But there used to be cool, fun social gatherings, and we can't have that.
Yeah.
So things have definitely changed.
Though with board games, because obviously it's in person, and by the time this pandemic is done, you guys can get right back into that. So I feel like it's not. I feel like some other like I don't know, like entertainment, like movies, are really trying to consider what they're gonna do because it's gonna take so long for theaters to open up fully back or stuff like that. Because I know, like what Mulan's coming out, I think at the time of this recording tomorrow on Disney Plus, and I don't know how that's gonna work out because it's you have to play. Yeah, it's coming. But they're having their solution to obviously take care of the ticket prices is that Disney Plus already $7.99, which to be fair in itself with all the streaming companies is a pretty good deal, right? That's like Crunchyroll levels of it's with way more content. But I think it's $29.99 because they're expecting on top of that to watch Mulan, even if you have, because obviously they're expecting families to come in. But I feel like a lot of people who are by themselves are not going to be able to buy that or not think about buying that. Well, it's gonna be interesting to see if the families justify it because in their head they're not thinking, "Oh, I spent $60 to go to movies with my family. It's only $30." They're thinking, "Oh, this is a $30 movie ticket." So I feel it's gonna be weird to see how movie companies are gonna go because I know Angry Birds. I think the Universal released that online and that actually did pretty well. It made its money that it was projected to make before the pandemic, if not a little bit more. And obviously they got more profit because they didn't go through theaters. But obviously now theater chains are going to have to are we going to be able to be open in a year? Are we going to close down? But I feel like stuff like the board game industry is it's not really I think it's more of like a pause button instead of reevaluating because I feel like for you guys, once conventions or possibility of conventions can start coming back or people can start playing board games to get word of mouth going, it's not just in my opinion. I'm not from the outsider looking in. I feel like board games are not going to have to change too much just because it's such a social aspect that once we get back to some sort of social normalcy, I think board games will be, because before the pandemic we had a podcast and board games we had talked about were probably as popular as ever with all the diversity of just all these new games coming out or all these card games and board games coming out and more interest in it. So I feel like the board game industry is going to be fine. Like this is like the board game industry, basically all the game industry, board game, video game, any gaming, I feel like are going to be doing fine once this.
A big thing that'll add to that is a lot of families are turning to board games,
right? Especially with the pandemic, right?
Time together, and so the board game industry, while it took a dive in the hardcore industry, I think the broad industry, the families that weren't necessarily playing before, have improved. And to speak on the Mulan part. Did you see that they've revoked the $30? They're just going to leave it free.
What?
Yes.
Well, I'll go check that out. Maybe I'll check it out.
I saw a few posts about that yesterday, I think, where they took that part off. And I mean, it makes sense because as you were pointing out, they want to make their money back, but $30, who's justifying that idea? And how does that work? Do I own Mulan now? Do I get a DRSM free copy of Mulan forever for $30? Like, what DVD was ever $30 in the first place?
Right.
And it was just like, wait a minute, what do you do? I feel like if they had done it and said, oh, we're going to charge an extra $5 for this one because it's our big premiere. If they had done something small like that, I swear they would have gotten away with it, and everyone would have been like, yeah, that makes sense.
Or maybe even $10, maybe $30 would
they didn't. I feel like they didn't like gauge that and preemptively take polls on how much would people be willing to pay for this movie ahead of time, and because of that, they're now getting screwed over to having to put it free.
Yeah, I don't know how that's gonna impact the actual movie now.
But at the same time, I don't feel bad about this because they opted to make a streaming service.
Yeah.
Look at Netflix. Look at Hulu. They've look at Amazon. They've started to become their own publishing companies for movies. They've started to become their own entire industries, making their own individual films, shows, everything. Disney's been dramatically ahead of them in terms of having their own studio, making everything, the process, the people. All they really needed to do was consolidate into their own service and start charging people. And the minute they do that, they're not ready to realize the fact that that's going to be 99% of their money now. Like, and don't get me wrong, Disneyland, all the other things, there's still so much more that Disney has that Hulu and Netflix and all the rest don't have. But if Netflix can afford everything on subscriptions alone to make all of their movies and everything, to consistently buy new content and make new content at the same time, Disney can. So I would have been okay with spending a few dollars to get Mulan because I really do want to see it.
And support it.
And I don't mind supporting it, but at the same time, I do already know that they get their fair share of money through subscriptions.
Right.
It's kind of like when you go to Costco and you realize I'm getting cheap wholesale price because they don't need to make money on the difference because they made all their money on the door charge.
All right.
My subscription, $60 a year. That's the original subscription service.
Is Costco really $60 a year? I haven't checked it. My family has Costco, but I don't have a Costco membership, so I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's $60 to $120 depending on which one, and then you can get Costco credit cards and get cash back, and there's all kinds of.
Yeah, I've seen those. Yeah,
rewards.
Yeah, if you want, we'll set you up with a different friend who works there. She'll give you the whole lowdown. But you look at companies like that, and you realize they can pass savings along because they make the whole of their money through that subscription model. And so with the subscription model, you're not looking to nickel and dime everywhere else. Do you see advertisements on Netflix?
Not too much, except for its own shows that are just like, what do you want to watch next based on what you want to watch? Here you are.
Exactly. And that's because they even bypassed the normal, like Crunchyroll and the rest of them made you pay so you could get rid of the ads. They bypassed straight into just a straight paid for it out of your, out of the streaming subscription.
Out of sight, out of mind. Right.
And then, don't get me wrong, they totally collect in the background the basic data of what's being watched, this, that, so that they can consolidate that data, sell maybe this or that, because, of course, that is worth money. So they can get some money out of that, but it doesn't interrupt our enjoyment. And so, again, you look at this, and then you go over and look at Disney that was trying to charge $30 for one movie, and you're like, no, you can't justify that. That's a few months subscription. Why? I get the concept that it was take the whole family to see the movie because, per subscription, maybe one person buys it. And who knows how many accounts you share it with. I know we're on someone else's account, so who knows how many you share it with. But yeah, I think they definitely, they screwed up. They asked for too much. They shouldn't have got greedy.
Now nothing.
Yeah, now they're going to get like nothing. Because, and I think that's the problem though, that's their own problem, is that they overcharge so much that if they didn't put it to zero, we'd have still griped. But if they had started low, they could have justified it, and we would have been like, yeah, okay.
Okay, it's like, $10? Yeah, it's about a movie ticket or two. That's fine. But 30 is like, even if families technically spend more at a movie theater, they're not thinking in, like, when they go on, like, let's say Fandango, they're saying, $7 a ticket, 5 tickets, this, and I'm going to buy my popcorn at the movie theater. They're not thinking. But if you go on Disney Plus, you're like, I want to watch Mulan on premiere day and see $29.99. They're thinking, it's $29.99 movie ticket, even though it's technically less. It's obviously by the number just mentally. If you're not like looking at, especially since we haven't been to the movie in so long,
all right.
Just like, I don't know. I feel like I know they're probably expecting, as is Disney, probably near, if not over $1 billion movie, as that's what Disney just puts out now. Almost every movie's cracking near or way over $1 billion. But even then, I feel like
all of their movies are worth it.
Yeah, but I feel like they should have been gauging that. Okay, how many families are actually using Disney Plus? How many individuals are using Disney Plus? And like they should have like, I think $30 was too much. Maybe 5 to 10. I mean, 5 maybe too little, but maybe $10 to $15 might have like, yeah, I can. It'd be more just, but like 30 was like it's a huge.
Yeah, but remember that they don't make all of the money from ticket sales either. If I remember correctly, the way it worked was for opening weekend, they make like 90%, 80% off the ticket sales. And then it's a sliding scale downwards from there out. Right. And that's why some theaters, like the drive-in theater and some of the other theaters, you'll see they run old movies is because once they've bought the rights to show it, because it's like a flat fee and then it's certain percent. But once they've bought the rights to show it, that percent goes down and down and down. So the longer they show it, the more money they make from it versus giving away to the company. So, but even with that, like at 80% of your ticket, if your ticket was $12, they're still only making, like $10 anyways.
Right.
So why didn't the world did they think they needed to charge extra? I understand the concept again is 5 of us would go watch it in the theater versus 5 of us are watching on one account here.
But yeah, the theater experience.
Yeah, you really gotta remember, like, yes, sure. If I go to the movies, especially in the Bay here, if I go to the movie theater at one of the regular scale ones and buy a popcorn and a drink, sure, I've spent $30. If I bring 2 of us, it's at least $30 just for the tickets. Sure, I get that, but it's just a different feeling. It isn't going to the movies. It's renting a movie.
Yeah, and I feel like I would have felt like it would probably been better if they just kept. I mean, I'm not better because obviously almost every major studio just keeps delaying their movies just because they don't know at this point. But I feel like they overestimated how much value they put into people who already paid their $6.99, $7.99 a month to try to figure out what to price it at extra. Because I feel like it was obvious if they were going to put it, they were going to charge extra. But I feel like they overprojected, like, oh, this needs to make $1 billion, so let's make it so every user, if they were to buy it, would make $2 billion. It's like that's not.
Yeah, it's probably just divided. How many subscriptions do we have? Divide that into this price, and therefore we get this price.
Yeah, it was too much. It's too logical. It was like one expecting everyone who has Disney Plus account to buy it, which I've heard is a good amount of people.
Yeah,
but 2, they were like, they should have realized this might not make a profit. We might not make $1 billion on this. But if we put it out now, we could make that $1 billion if we let it out for a year. But I think that was the for lack of a better term, price they had to pay for it now. So we'll see.
Random. You wanted to talk conspiracy theories. Almost a random conspiracy theory I've thought of was when's the last time you've seen an ad for the next Marvel movie? For the next one.
For all, because they were technically supposed to come out
months ago, before quarantine even.
Black Widow was supposed to come out in May, and I don't know what's happening with that now. I think they just kept delaying it. I think it's delayed infinitely. I know the other 2 movies they're shooting, I think Shang-Chi and Eternals, I think Eternals wrapped, and then I think they're filming Shang-Chi in New Zealand. I think they're still filming, but yeah, there hasn't been any marketing for anything.
And that was the weird thing to me, was that Marvel, with the whole cinematic universe, it was a ploy that ended up working out. So they became obscenely successful. But you saw their commercials everywhere. You knew what the next 2 Marvel movies were within a year before them coming out. And it was just such a steady stream. And then when Endgame happened, you knew what was next because Spider-Man's trailer was before it.
And then
after that. And I understood at the time, like, this is the weird thing about that, is that it coincided well because I understood at the time we're ending an arc, we're ending an era, we're starting the next one afterwards. So of course we can't really show our full hand. We're still kind of working on the background script of it all. So I understood that. But at the same time, like by the end of Spider-Man Homecoming or whatever,
Far From Home,
Far From Home, there we go. Yeah. By the end of Spider-Man Far From Home, I was just like, cool. So what's supposed to be the next movie? Why am I watching this in theaters but not knowing what's next? I used to know the next 2 movies by the time I'd watch this movie, and now I don't know what's next. And then, strangely enough, I just then they had the whole banner ad that wasn't quite confirmed of all the things that are supposed to be.
Then they did confirm a lot of them, and then they did
confirm a lot of them, but it was like background news.
Yeah.
It was never like, here it is. This is the like the ones that we thought were like, here it is. They were the ones confirmed as, oh no, this actually isn't it. But here's some of the other ones that might be confirmed, And so then it weirdly coincided leading into to COVID and quarantine. And now I'm like, yeah, I really like all of these other movies that I was excited for fell out of my mind. But at the same time, that's one of the companies that fell out of my mind before quarantine happened.
I know they had the Super Bowl ads for Black Widow, and then there are two for he's talking Disney Plus. They had 2 Disney Plus shows for Marvel that they had. I think they had commercials to a Super Bowl. Wow. But yeah, those TV shows are just to come out like in the next few months, and I don't even know what's happening now. Because think about it, I don't know if you guys watched Mandalorian, but Mandalorian season 2 comes out next month in October, and they still haven't put out a trailer. But they've announced it's coming out next month. But how is there no trailer for? I mean, I know the first season was successful, but you would think the people were saying if they wrapped filming before COVID started or right around when COVID started, so they should have had a trailer. I don't know. It's just kind of weird right now on Disney's front. I don't think they're failing, because obviously we'll see once everything comes out, but it's definitely a weird time for a lot of movie companies.
Yeah, and I feel like it could also coincide with the fact that it was Disney owns Marvel. We forget that a lot of times, but Disney owns Marvel and kind of let them run their own stuff for the longest time. But I swear when they went to go the route of their subscription service, when you combine that because Disney Plus is what, a year old at this rate?
Yeah,
it's about a year old, maybe a year old.
So I feel like that also plays into why Marvel's marketing plans switched a bit, because it was questionable how they were going to do it with their subscription service. And so I can see a lot of reasons as to why, but it's just this weird coincidence when you think about it. You want to think, conspiracy theory. It's almost like Marvel knew, because they just preemptively started to drop the ball right at the right time, is what it feels like when I think back on it.
Whereas we have all this stuff, but we're going to keep it vague enough where we can release it. Even if they release it 2 years from now, it won't feel like, oh, where did they go? It's more like, we're just relaxing. And then they're gonna. It's it is because you would think how they know to finish one arc, and now it feels like it's because people were like, oh, when's the Marvel fatigue gonna hit? But now with it's all conspiracy. But now with all the pandemic, people are gonna get that breather. But they're still gonna be able oh, I love these because of Disney Plus. They can keep rewatching their old classics. But now they get this breather, this breath of fresh air. So whenever they do come back. Let's say, because I know Black Widow was supposed to come out in May. Whenever they drop Black Widow now, which probably determines when it comes out, depending on how Mulan does. Because if Mulan does well, then there's Black Widow comes out next month, guys. Get ready. Yeah.
Probably, yeah.
But I think it's going to depend on that. But I feel like it's... I won't obviously, it's conspiracy, take it with a grain of salt, but I wouldn't... At best, I'd be they probably use hey, people might actually get fatigue. We're already starting a basically new arc of this whole MCU. We could take a year off, and I don't think anyone would complain. I mean, but people obviously hardcore comic book fans would complain, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I was going to say when it comes to a marketing plan, it's best to capitalize on the growth as it's current. And so. I mean, think about it. Marvel was going bankrupt when they started this plan. And it was a make it or break it thing that made it. But the whole idea, nobody had done a cinematic universe. But, Marvel, the entire comic book industry was plagued with crossovers and all kinds of stuff in the first place. So it's not even like they're writing stories. They're just picking which stories they're actually telling us.
Adapting it for the...
And yeah, they're slightly adapting them because movie universes are going to be a little different and whatnot. But yeah, when they started out, they had one a year almost, and then
it was one. Maybe it was Iron Man, Hulk. Well, Iron Man came out I think it came out right after Dark Knight, so that's 2007, right? So yeah,
Iron Man, Hulk, Captain America, Thor,
and Iron Man 2
that led into
Avengers.
Oh yeah, Iron Man 2. You're right. Iron Man 2 was the last one as well.
Yeah, it was about a year,
leading into it.
A movie every year, maybe. Yeah, I think 2011 they had 2 movies, but it was a movie every year only.
Yeah, so it started out one movie every year, and then when it started to come together and look like it was gonna succeed, they started to push it up because then it became okay. It's working. Let's let's push into it and use that momentum to push past it and then continue from there. And, then you get all the way to Avengers 2, which is arguably one of the worst ones.
And then just all of phase, and then phase 2, phase 3, going through 2 to 3 movies a year.
Amazing. By phase 3, it was like there's no such thing as a bad Marvel movie.
It's like we're talking about a raccoon in space, and no one's thinking about it. Like
not at all. And then of course you get all the way to
Infinity War,
and like, oh man, the buildup and everything was so amazing. And so I understood that they needed kind of like that moment of reprieve to switch topics, which is kind of why they did the Spider-Man movie next, because it was a way to grieve, because Spider-Man's mentor was Tony Stark, and so that was a huge difference there. And so it was like a way to grieve with familiar but new characters without giving the overall arc of how's it going to change, how's it going to go forward. Because it's like, okay, who's going to be the new leaders? Because the 2 main leaders are now gone. One's dead. One decided to get old. Well, they all passed the mantle, which honestly,
I mean, to be fair, I don't have any doubt that maybe one of them might return for like a cameo in one movie.
Oh,
10
they sure
years
will.
From now. Like
they sure will. But that's a whole different thing. Like you in storytelling modes, I read a lot of books and I get the flow you'll want. But you got to do it in the 3 different acts. But in the meantime, you can't keep retelling the same stories. That was kind of one of the reasons why the cinematic universe was so great. Look at this. They're starting Batman over again. Like how many?
But to be fair, it looks good. And also, news today, they were about to start production, but now they're Robert Pattinson. It's not confirmed by his camp or the people inside, but Vanity Fair says its sources says that Robert Pattinson did get tested positive for COVID. And to be fair, again, we don't know how it's going to affect him. He could be good in 2 weeks. He could be good in 2 months, and they're going to do it then. Or it could go prayers. That's the best case scenario. So prayers up for him. But yeah, and to be fair, it looked dope. But yeah, DC, I think, is only right now realizing, okay, cinematic universes, we're not prepared to do that. We have to do They're just now getting to that point where they're like, okay, standalone movies are like how they were doing it back in the day with Superman all the way in the 70s to the Batman movies outside of the last 2 in the 90s and Dark Knight in the 2000s. I think they're realizing their best movies are when they're just trying to make a good story. Marvel was able to make a good story, make it all connect, but not everyone has a Kevin Feige to like make sure everything connects perfectly and not perfect, but fits almost perfectly and flows seamlessly. Not everyone has that type of like genius or knowledge of the comics to do that, but a lot of people know Batman or know Superman or know the Flash or know Shazam, that they can make good movies with those characters, and maybe they'll have a cameo or 2 from the other things. But I feel like they're just realizing now. I think the Joker especially proved that like we don't need to connect anything. We just need to make a good movie first and see where it goes from there. Because I think everyone was trying to rush. I think it was like the Monster Universe or Universal with the Mummy that went nowhere. And a lot of these people tried to do all these cinematic universes when it was like Marvel started with Iron Man, and all that it was show the connection was there, one post-credit scene that could have gone nowhere if Iron Man didn't do well.
Yep.
It started off, Iron Man was a single story about a man who got messed up by a terrorist organization, came back and realized the error of his ways and tried to reform. Yep. That's Iron Man. That's the first movie.
I was going to say, it's like 3 or 4 movies before it's confirmed that they're doing the Avengers plot. Because I remember after watching Hulk or Thor, and it was finally like, oh, now it's starting to become widespread known.
It's not just like Easter egg, like, oh, Iron Man's in the Avengers. Of course Nick Fury would ask him to join the Avengers. So I don't think anyone realized, oh, this is a real thing now. We're going to get an Avengers movie in a few years. Like, I don't think anyone was realizing that as soon as Iron Man came out. It was like,
yeah. And I kind of agree that, I think at this point we all kind of expect it, especially out of superhero movies, that they want to do a cinematic universe. But yeah, the problem that DC did was they rushed it. They put like what 2.5 movies.
No, it was Man of Steel, and then they went right into Batman v Superman.
Right, and it's like, what the heck are you doing? You don't cameo and crossover immediately.
You've barely established your Superman. Now, Batman's old and gruff and he hates Superman. What?
Yeah.
Like, what happened?
What are you doing? Like, yeah, cool. These are cool stories. Don't get me wrong. Like, I love them, but you can't just shove it all together to try to make something. You got to establish, like, that was the super important thing. A movie like Avengers, by the second or third Avengers, they don't bother to introduce people. They're just there because they expect you to know them. But you can't do a movie like that. Like, that was kind of the point, was you can't do a movie like Avengers if you do it as a standalone movie. It's impossible, because who the fuck are these people? If I don't know them, I can't watch your movie. Mm-hmm. Done. End of story. And so, that ostracizes an entire amount of audiences. Now, a lot of these are the extremely popular ones, which was why, especially the first Avengers, even if you didn't necessarily know everyone, you could have got by. And
by the time you got to Civil War, it's like, by
the time you got to Civil War, there's freaking 15 different people all fighting, and this isn't even an Avengers movie. This is a spin-off story. And you're just like, oh god.
And the fact that they were able to pull it off, like by the time they got to that, the fact that they were able to pull it off is just it's Avengers is the exception. It's not what the norm should be. It's the like the Marvel MCU is the exception to what a movie studio could do. It wasn't like it shouldn't be cut. I think studios are just now realizing, this is not the norm. We can't. It's not as easy as it made it seem.
Everyone tried to bandwagon immediately upon seeing it succeed. Like, oh shit, Marvel's amazing. Let's do what they're doing immediately. No, please stop. So I am kind of curious to see if this new Batman movie is going to spin off into maybe making a cinematic.
I don't think they've said I think Robert Pattinson himself has said he doesn't plan on going into any of like the whatever the DC movies are now, because obviously Zack Snyder is re-releasing Justice League as it's a huge 4-hour 4-part series of the whole cut that he wanted to make in the beginning before Joss Whedon thing, which in itself shows how much streaming is now, because that's going straight to streaming. They've confirmed that. That's how big streaming is now. They're confident enough to put that there. But for what was it going on right before that? I missed the what?
Yeah, so for the new Batman, whether it's
they've confirmed. At least the director says he wants to make a trilogy. So I think their himself is they're going to make 3 Batman films with an overarching narrative. Unlike Nolan, who kind of did 3 separate films, I think that he already has a plan for all 3. But I don't think they're planning, at least not right now, to make him cross over with like, hey, here's the Flash, here's Superman, here's, I don't know, the Question. I don't just like random.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because like the other thing though that kind of disappoints me, because I've always been a bigger Marvel fan than DC in the first place, because Marvel's less serious, more happy-go-lucky. They got their serious points, but DC feels like everything's serious.
Which is why they keep messing up Superman, because he's supposed to be the levity, but it's not that hard. Just make him a Boy Scout, guys. It's not hard,
right? But like the other challenge though is that they've at this point rehashed and retold the story so many times that it's like what in the hell can you even tell us about Batman anymore? I'd rather you make a freaking trilogy on something I don't already know most of its story.
Which I think, at least for this Batman, he said he's focusing more on the detective, like actually solving mysteries, because, Batman keeps saying he's the world's greatest detective, and he probably had like a total 5 scenes total across every Batman movie showing him doing any detective. It's more him like, the Riddler's here, gotta stop him. The Joker's gonna poison the reservoir, gotta stop him. Arnold Schwarzenegger, the Mr. Freeze is gonna make the world cold, gotta stop him. That's a movie.
That was the case, and they wanted to make a detective movie. They could have gone a different route and just done a new Sherlock movie. That's not overplayed. You know how much room there is, you know how much room there is, even if you're telling spin-offs of the same old Sherlock Holmes books. Because even them, they had 20, 30 plus individual short stories.
And for some reason, we just keep like, Sherlock and Moriarty. I'm like, yes, we get it. Moriarty's
you shouldn't go straight to Moriarty at all.
I know, but I'm saying like a lot of Sherlock things I feel like Ghost, like if the people who are like, let's do Moriarty, like every Sherlock's already done it. There's like, as you said, 30 books worth of stuff you go to. You don't have to do like the biggest bad or anything. Just make him solve a mystery. You'll
Yeah, and I've watched both of the different Sherlock series and the movie, and I enjoy all of them immensely. And
Discombobulate.
They wanted to do something that was more focusing on detective. That I'd rather you stop trying to rehash the same damn thing that we all keep seeing, even if you're going to make a slight spin on it. Move to a different genre. Then move somewhere else. There are so many. I read a lot of books. There are so many amazing books that I would pay so much money to watch them. Oh my God. My favorite author is one of the best known in the world, Brandon Sanderson. There is almost no bad book he has ever written. And basically every one of them, the thing he does extremely well is unique magical or worlds. And just about every one of them is amazing and could be done beautifully or crazily. And they all have huge followings. And there's nothing. There's no book, TV series, nothing based on them. And it baffles my mind that he's written so much amazing stuff. Like literally he's so good at it. He's the top rated professor when it comes to fantasy stories and writing.
Okay.
I forget the title for what he teaches, but basically he's one of the top professors even. And yet he still writes like 4 books a year.
Wow.
Yeah, no, he's ridiculous.
It's a grind. Obviously he's probably written it ahead of time, but still.
Like, give me I don't care. Like, I hate reading incomplete series. I've read everything of his. In fact, I've left one book unread because it's the Stormlight Archives. They're like 40-hour audiobooks. They're fat books. All right. They're huge. He's finished the 3rd one. It came out like last year and I avoided it because they're huge and all that, but they're amazingly good books. But the problem that I have is it's a 10-book saga that's in 2 5-books parts. And I finally went, you know what? I'll leave this one alone because that's only book 3 of 5. Fuck it. I'll finally leave one alone. But I've literally read everything else he's put out because it's all good.
True fan.
Amazing. Yeah. And that's not even my favorite books. I have books that are way higher on my favorites list that are just amazing, and I could see them being amazing movies. And so it annoys me when it's like, how has it even been that long since there's been a Batman movie and you want to start over? Stop it.
It's been longer than this last between the Spider-Man movies, but yeah, I think true. I think the only thing is that I feel like movie and TV studios, and up until recently, suck at making adaptations outside of like some superhero movies. I think they're just now realizing, oh, we can make a talking raccoon a decent concept because with Guardians of the Galaxy. I think people are like, because like Harry Potter did well, and then they're trying to capitalize on that. Hunger Games was okay, but then stuff like Divergent, that was whether or not you like the books, that was a bad.
Hunger Games and Divergent.
Maze Runner kind of fell off. And then Percy Jackson, which right now is probably the most popular young adult series, even to this date with all its spin-offs. Mm-hmm. They made 2 movies, and as a Percy Jackson fan, they sucked. Like, if they can't even get the most popular series out there to make a good adaptation, they're doing, I think, by chance, it's Disney again. Disney's working with the author to make an animated series on the books, which might be better, so they don't have to cast a 16-year-old instead of a 11-year-old. Whatever, it's fine. But I feel like a lot of studios are just not seriously like looking at stuff like, oh yeah, we can adapt this and try to make a good adaptation about it, and they're just like, oh, we'll just make it. Yeah, sure, why not? Like, it's hard for them to just make a good serious adaptation of Batman at this point to justify that for a lot of studios. I think that's why you're only right now seeing adaptations starting to take off. And be good, not just take off, but like be of any substance, though. That could just be me being optimistic and hopeful.
Yeah, it's definitely Hollywood playing safe. Like, sure, they can make money, but they definitely want to play
always
safe.
About the money at the end. Like, how much can we believe?
Yeah.
Well, anyway, since we were talking about we should wrap this up. And before we wrap this up, since we were talking about Marvel, we should definitely mention the tragic passing of Chadwick Boseman to the King of Wakanda, Black Panther, Jackie Robinson. But did you guys? Where were you guys when you guys heard that? It was like, did you guys hear about like?
I was down in SoCal.
We were,
just scrolled past it on Facebook and went, no way, and then scrolled back like There was like 12
times,
different
yeah.
posts.
Yeah, it was insane.
All from different sources. So Facebook was just like, oh, that's a different post. Oh, that's a different post. So I went after like 3 or 4 of them. I'm like, oh shit, it's real.
It's bad.
It's like I would say he is a real life superhero. Like he hid that he had stage 3 and eventually stage 4 cancer for 4 years and made, they said 7 movies by the time he was diagnosed. 7 movies of his came out. I think he still has 1 or 2 that are in production, post-production right now. Like the Spike Lee one was his most recent one. That's in post-production right now, which means he just finished filming a few months ago with stage 4 colon. And a lot of his speeches were always talking about you have to do stuff while and all his speeches, like now everyone looking back are realizing he was telling us that he was not okay without telling us at all, making sure like, I'm surprised. Like, that's why I think when Hollywood leaks, it's never a leak. It's always on purpose. This thing did not leak for 4 years, and he kept making movies. And it's just a testament to the type of person he was, that he didn't want to put that out there to make people question his ability to do what he loved and putting out the material he wanted. And yeah, that's just like, that's a true hero right there. Among all the people in Hollywood, that's a true man, a true legend of. He's a legend now. Like, he'll forever be, like, for people, I mean, I know Blade came out years ago, but for a lot of people, he was the first true mainstream, not just black superhero, but person of color superhero that I feel like a lot of people attach to. I mean, like, I legit remember during Infinity War, spoilers for a 2-year-old movie at this point, when the dusting happened at the end and everyone was like getting sad. And the biggest reaction to who got dusted in my theater on opening night was Black Panther. That's how much he was only been at that point in the movies for 2 years. And he made that big of an impact on people to get that reaction. Like, to get to the places he went to while dealing with that chemo and all this treatment for 4 years is a testament to just how amazing he was. And he never complained. He always tried to make the best product he could. And that's I feel like people should aspire to be even close to like that. It's just so, since we were talking about Marvel, I decided to just, put that out there.
Take care of your body.
Take care.
Definitely.
Talk to people like her. They'll help get you products. Take care of your body. Do what you need to do.
And find that balance in your life.
Oh, yes.
Anyway, so I feel like we should wrap up now. So so Drunk on Games, they're Jonathan May from Drunk on Games. Their YouTube channel will be in the description down below. Thank you all so much for listening today. If you took anything from this podcast, I would say just try to find that balance. Just try to find you. Just try to be the best version of you, and don't be afraid to ask for help. Always be open to help. Always be open-minded. Always be mindful of what's going on around you, just because you never know. You never know when anyone's time is up at this point. It could be tomorrow. It could be 30, 50, 100 years from now. You don't know. But you just got to live life to being the best version of yourself. So anyway, thank you all so much for watching or listening to the GoLoco Podcast today. If you're on YouTube, please subscribe, like that video, comment down below. I'm already messing up your intro. Cheers, drink, play. Comment down cheers, drink, play if you gotten this far. If you're on an audio platform such as Apple Music or Spotify or any of the like, please follow and make sure you guys can listen to that when episodes come out. Remember, we have Facebook and Instagram and a Patreon. They'll all be down in the description below as well. Thank you all so much for watching, listening today. And wherever and whenever you are in the world, have an amazing day. Peace out, y'all.
Bye.